are you running? Why are you running?
Sevens are what I call cheat code characters. With any other type, you can't just have the character do a bunch of random contradictory shit. People will be like, huh? What? That's not in character, but with sevens, you kind of get a pass. See, for people afflicted with the Enneagram 7 fixation, the plurality is the point. Sevens crave excitement and stimulation and diverse experiences. So they're great engines for adventure, as long as you understand why.
And that's Mabel's guide to laughing for an uncomfortable amount of time.
Sevens are fear types. Basically, there's an anxiety and a restlessness deep inside of them, and they cope with this by distracting themselves, by staying on the move, never looking back. They are escapists, in a sense. They don't want to feel those negative emotions. So the seven story, in a phrase, would be, stop running and face the darkness. Sevens need to learn to have the hard conversations. They need to confront the thing. Cat in Shoes 2, our protagonist is forced to confront the ultimate thing, death. This really is the most explicit seven story out there. A person who was basically immortal and never had to worry about anything is now face to face with his own mortality. He denies it, he tries to run, but in the end he gets his act together and faces it. And death rewards him by sparing him. This interlocks with the love story plotline. Cat cannot commit to an emotional connection. He'd rather walk away, so his embracing of the reality of death coincides with his increasing emotional vulnerability, which is to say, the big scary thing sevens are running from can really be a number of things. Overwhelming feelings, painful memories, responsibility is a common one. A lot of responsibility stories are seven-coded. Go watch Josh's Iron Man video. But you can also get away with just kind of like a vague, unspecific Kirkland brand darkness. I don't know. I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out if Daemon Targaryen works from a writing perspective. Like if you take away Matt Smith and the dragon, and I think he does for the most part. In season 1, Daemon is a rogue. He comes, he goes, he pursues one goal, then he gets bored and pursues another. He'll lean so hard in one direction and then sort of just shrug and change course on a dime. In season 2, though, Daemon starts to look at the darkness. He has dreams about his own mortality and the gravity of his immoral actions, which he swept under the rug. And side note, I think the way they're trying to also make his character about wanting the throne and power in season 2 does not work. That was never his actual goal in season 1. He was just trolling. It's common, though, for seven stories to be about acknowledging one's trail of destruction.
It's always over, baby. I'm afraid you still have to face the music.
Probably my favorite example of this is Better Call Saul. Jimmy McGill has trolled his way through life, neglecting his family, turning a blind eye to evil acts, and always getting away, always squeezing his way out of responsibility. The seven lives in this perpetual Hakuna Matata phase, where there are no consequences and nothing matters.
This very unrighteous dude thinks that reality is better than fantasy. But reality is bogus, lame, and whack.
But the Hakuna Matata phase is hollow. It's not sustainable. It's not fully satisfying. And the seven has to realize how unsatisfying it is. After Jimmy escapes the events of Breaking Bad, his world becomes black and white, literally. He got away, look at him, he's so free, but he's beginning to see that his freedom is empty. And so the ending of the show is Jimmy finally facing the darkness, taking accountability for all the pain and death he's caused. And roll credits, that was his Type 7 journey. The stereotype personality for sevens is sunshine all day, every day. Like the negative half of their emotions has just been EQ'd out. And many sevens fit this caricature to a T. I don't think I've seen a seven story more explicit than Barbie in how both tonal extremes are presented.
Do you guys ever think about dying?
But there's nothing stopping sevens from being more like Daemon, aggressive and mercurial. That's going on the word bank. So as always, we have to look past personality and look at pathology. Sure, distraction can look like partying, but it can also look like going to war for shits and giggles. But in another seven story, war could be the very thing the character is running from.
He said last of your kind. What does that mean?
It really doesn't matter.
You don't talk. You never say.
Understanding the Enneagram is less about identifying common elements and more about understanding the ways in which elements are arranged. The arrangement for a seven is you have to have the thing that gives them negative emotions, and you have a behavior or set of behaviors that they turn to in order to distract themselves from those emotions, which can range from a fun-ish distraction to mild avoidance and downplaying, slang to full-on delusion, depending on how severe their 7 coding is. Again, just general personality stereotypes. 7s embody the chaotic character trope that I make fun of all the time. Just go, go, go. You never know what they're going to do. Very confident. They just say, it's fine, everything is great. But if you look closely, you can see that panic behind their eyes. 7s are fear types. And so at a certain point in the story, the 7 has to confront the question of, why are you running? And the answer is some uncomfortable reality that they don't want to face. For Barbie and Kat, it's death. For Peter and the Doctor, it's grief. For Jules Foria, it's a traumatic upbringing. For Saul and Damon, it's sin. For Cypher, it's the dark reality he no longer wants to deal with. For Jack Sparrow, it's the discomfort of responsibility. Whatever it is, it's an inescapable reality, and they have to confront it if they want to grow. Jack is a 7. I didn't originally put him in the video because he isn't a super dynamic character, but when his story does get deep, it gets 7 deep. Escapist, perpetually distracted, avoids responsibility, but eventually he has nowhere left to run. He faces the darkness all while framing it as another great adventure, comes out on the other side of the darkness to eventually fight the good fight. The end. Just kidding, there's also a mermaid and a stick, but yeah, the end. The 7 tragedy is when they don't face the darkness, which usually looks like blanking themselves to death, just sinking deeper and deeper into their coping mechanism until it destroys them.
How many of these did you eat?
17.
Bonus points if the 7 has a moment of clarity right before the end. Stories about excess and greed tend to be very 7-coded. They want more and more and more because they're trying to numb the pain and the fear. It's that wubba-lubba-dub-dub grind set. Another 7 story is where they go on their adventure, they indulge their desire for excess, but it's unsatisfying, and they realize the treasure was back home all along. Think Treasure Planet, think Coraline. The story of Midas and the Golden Touch is also very 7-coded, getting everything you wanted only for it to be sickening and meaningless. Don't confuse 7s with 3s. With 3s, it's not just about getting the thing. It's about status and applause. But with 7s, it really is about getting the thing. It's about filling a psychological hole with materials and sensations.
Someone took her away from me, and 7 kingdoms couldn't fill the hole she left behind.
Gluttony, as the old heads put it. 7s don't need to be seen, they're just here for a good time. Avoidant attachment slots nicely into 7-ness, just like it does for 5-ness. Commitment can be unpleasant. It entails a lot of hard conversations, and it's a form of captivity. Captivity would force the 7 to confront their problems. We can't have that. No, we gotta run. After all, there are so many more opportunities, so many more things to do.
Objection, Your Honor, that's conjecture.
Overruled.
I'd like to show you this reality that Dipper loves so much and show you how it has wronged my client and Dipper their entire lives.
So 7s will have trouble appreciating the thing in front of them. Again, Coraline. So what is a 7 backstory? I know there's some contention about whether or not Enneagram types are determined in childhood, but just for story purposes, let's explore this. I've noticed that there is a trap writers fall into when it comes to backstories. They assume the character believes a certain thing simply because they were taught to believe it. In Enneagram terms, this would mean a 7 parent raising a 7 child by explicitly teaching them 7 principles. But there's learning and then there's learning. You have to remember that when it comes to subconscious coping strategies, we don't adopt the ones we're told to adopt. We adopt the ones that work, the ones that best help us manage our situations. With that in mind, a 7 complex could come from essentially being trapped in a traumatic environment and making it out and then deciding to never look back and just keep swimming because it's too painful or too frightening or otherwise too unpleasant to confront what happened. But you don't need backstory. You can just start with the character's core urge, so yeah, it's there if you need it. Another random thought. I'm a little scattered, but it is the 7 video, so it's fine. The movie Don't Look Up is a 7 story without 7 characters. It explores a 7 angle on a collapsing society, at least it tries to. Remember, the Enneagram fixations can manifest on the character level, but they can also manifest on the thematic level. It's not about personality, it's about general maladaptive patterns, and those patterns can manifest in looser, more abstract ways. Is Hungry Hungry Hippos 7-coded? Is a black hole 7-coded? Like, you see what I mean? You've got to get freaky with it. The 7 video feels like a good time to make a general Enneagram point, which is that the system isn't about selfishness or selflessness or any moral axis. Instead of saying Tony Stark goes from bad person to good person, like some magical fairy dust transformation, I found it more helpful to frame it as your type fixation is the thing standing between you and being a good person. In the case of the 7, it's, you want to be a hero? Okay, you have to confront the fear and denial. So many writers will try to have their characters discover morals. Like, oh wow, I didn't realize how to be a good person, and now I do, I learned my lesson. And this just doesn't work for me. 1, because I really don't think people work like that, and 2, because even if they did, being ignorant of something and then learning it is not an arc. Like, you just didn't know. That to me is not as compelling as an active subconscious strategy which gets in the way of altruism, because then you have to be accountable for the role you played in your own corruption. An arc is identifying the thing inside of you that's been holding you back all along and conquering it. For 7s, that is the terror they deny. Themes of escapism, learning to be grateful for the moment, fear of death, adventure, freedom, the fear of commitment, the denial of evil, or some other disconcerting reality. That's the bread and butter of 7 stories.